All right, guys. Sorry, trying to get everything ready to go, and we're going to give this a couple minutes here to let everybody filter in here as we're just about 1 minute after 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time here. And so we will continue to kind of give some people some time to file in here. Make sure, just let me know if you guys are in the chat. Let me know if you can hear me. I believe you can. I think I checked that and it was all good. Anyways, give it a couple more minutes, a minute or two here. This is what you're currently looking at right now is live radar. And if you hear some feedback, I just want to make sure that we are... Okay, yeah, we have audio, so that's good to know. So, alrighty. Give it another minute here. Right now you can see if we look at radar, there's not a whole lot going on. Some thunderstorms up into northwestern Wisconsin, but we're pretty quiet as of right now here this afternoon across the area, and that's going to change a little bit later on as we've been talking about here for some time. Awesome, good. You can hear. That's good to that's good to hear. So. All right, so we're starting to see some people come on in here, so we'll go ahead and get started. If you're watching this, obviously, if you want to go back and view this and get more information or review some of the stuff we've said today, you can always check this out on our YouTube channel. It should stay there. So going on over, the first thing we're going to look at here is the severe weather outlook for today. The colors, if you're not familiar with them, the darker greens here, or the green is more of just a marginal risk. Your yellow is a slight. As you get into more of the orangish tan, that's an enhanced, and then the red is the moderate. We do have one more level beyond that, which is a high risk, which is a magenta, but that is not issued today, thankfully. But we still have a pretty big concern in general with the moderate risk out across generally Wisconsin today. And so you can see places, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and we'll zoom out and we'll look at some of the other places, and you'll have to excuse me if there's a few places up here into Wisconsin that I might mispronounce. But you can see the moderate risk in place here. Rice Lake, Eau Claire, Stevens Point, Green Bay, Antigo, Merrill, then back down towards Oshkosh, Fond du Lac, Milwaukee, Manitowoc, Sheboygan, Green Bay. You guys all in this moderate risk of severe weather today that has been issued. I was looking over things yesterday, and really for a significant damaging wind event, a lot of things really lining up with that today. Really tonight, I guess I should say, as we work later on into the evening. So going on over, look at a couple of things here. We're going to look at the overall threats that have been put in as far as probabilities from the Storm Prediction Center here. This is the wind outlook. And so as you start to get into this magenta color, that is a 45% probability of wind. Anything generally above about 15% as you work into 30-45% is pretty significant. And if you look at kind of the hatched area here, what looks like kind of like lattice in there, that stands for significant winds. So meaning we could have 70 plus mile per hour winds or wind gusts as storms come on through here later tonight into tomorrow morning. Obviously your highest risk there is in the 45%, but obviously as you get into that 30%, which is the red, so you're getting up north almost into western portions, actually into like western portions of the UP, and then also down towards Chicago, Waukegan, those areas, you guys in that 30% risk, extending out into western portions of Michigan as well. So places out into Lansing, back out to the west, out towards Grand Rapids, and those areas will be in that 30% risk. We look at the tornado risk. Again, 10% tornado risk here for portions of Wisconsin and kind of eastern, northeastern portions of Minnesota. Not quite including the Twin Cities, but off to the east and northeast of there. So you do have a 10% risk of tornadoes, which again, for a tornado risk, considering, I don't know what climatology is for today, but basically less than, probably a few tenths of a percentage based on climatology is what your daily rate would be, and so you're increasing that to 10%, that's pretty significant. So you've got a 10% risk of tornadoes as we see storms, especially storms develop later on this afternoon into this evening initially, because some of these storms will likely be supercellular. And then we take a look at the hail. You can see a 30% hail risk up into portions of Wisconsin as well, some of that being large or significant. Again, kind of that hatched area. Again, that's more into like north central and northwestern and western Wisconsin and kind of eastern, northeastern Minnesota, where you have the better hail risks up here. But there's still the possibility of hail even as you work into northern portions of Illinois, even though it's only about a 5% risk there. Hail, again, when you get these supercellular storms, especially initially as they develop, you end up seeing the potential for some very large hail with these updrafts and the kind of moisture you have within these storms. So going on over, we'll take a look at a couple other things. This is the some SPC guidance. This is the HREF. So this is basically just a model that is provided by the SPC. And I think they weigh this somewhat in their outlooks, but this does not determine their outlook. But I always find it interesting to kind of look at some of the model data, what the model would suggest these risks should be. And if we take a look here at the HREF, this is the probability of hail over the next 24 hours. And you can see that 30% risk. It's a little bit more centralized into Wisconsin here with the model data. If we take a look at the tornado risk, you can see it's got a little bit higher of a tornado risk. I don't know, I agree with the SPC. I think the tornado risk is a bit lower than 15%. But nonetheless, I do think there will be some tornadoes with this. And then obviously the wind risk is going to be greater. This even suggesting kind of a bullseye of potentially 60% winds. I don't know that we'll see that. The big thing is, will this be widespread enough for something like that to be issued? I don't see that happening because I believe I could be wrong. But I think if you issue a 60% risk of wind, I think that might be a high risk. So I don't think we're going to see that today. I think we're going to stay with the moderate risk. So let's go on over and take a look and kind of time out some of these storms. Now keep in mind, this is not going to be perfect. There's a lot of things to still consider here today, such as where these developments, where some of these perturbances move on through, and compared to where we're actually going to see the storms. But this is just giving you a general idea on what we're expecting for timing and threats here as we work into the evening. So we're going to talk in Central Time here, as long as I can remember to do that. I'm so used to doing Eastern. So into Central Time, this is as we start to work on into, I'm going to click into 1 p.m. Central. And as we get on into 2 and 3 o'clock, we do have some rain showers out here. Now I don't know if they'll be quite this widespread. You can see what we've got going on up there right now. We actually had a hail report east of Minneapolis, but we've got some rainfall and some thunderstorms out there right now, nothing severe. And as you work on into the evening, into 3, 4, 5 o'clock, you can still see some of these showers and a couple thunderstorms moving on through. But what you'll notice is up here into very northern portions of Minnesota is these thunderstorms are developing up here into very northern and kind of northeastern Minnesota. And as we start to work on into 6, 7, 8 o'clock Central, you're really starting to see these getting going out here across northwestern portions of Wisconsin and back out into eastern portions of Minnesota. In fact, you know what? Let's try to do something here. Bear with me. I may go ahead and try to use this if it'll work. I've been having some issues with it. What run are we on here? Yeah. So let's see if we can use this so we can kind of zoom in and get some city levels. So as we move on in, let's see. Yeah, see, that's the problem. We're having some issues getting this to load properly. Nonetheless, so we'll go back a few runs, but you can see as we start to work on into 6, 7, 8 o'clock here, we've got all these showers and thunderstorms up here moving into Grand Rapids, then back down towards Duluth, maybe even up towards Ironwood and Ashland. And as we continue on into 9 and 10 o'clock. I mean, look at 9 o'clock. This is an impressive supercell per the HRRR back out towards Rice Lake and Winter. We've got thunderstorms still back out towards maybe the Grand Rapids and Duluth area, but your severe weather threat as we work on into like that 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock time frame is moving more across kind of northern Wisconsin. And then as we continue into 10 and 11 o'clock, I mean, you can see these storms really getting going. I mean, by 10 and 11 o'clock, you've got probably severe thunderstorms, Medford, maybe Eau Claire, moving out towards Wassaw, and Antigo, back down towards Shawano, Green Bay. And then we continue on in towards midnight and 1 a.m., and you can see these kind of in what looks to be almost like a Bow Echo or a QLCS type system, moving off to the southeast. Now, the big thing with these will be to watch how exactly these move, because if we go back and kind of take this forward a little bit, you can see how these want to move almost directly to the southeast. Over time, a lot of times what will happen is these will kind of take off to the southeast, and then as they kind of go around the axis of instability, they will actually turn southward. So I'm going to go over to the NAM 3 kilometer, and you can see how the NAM 3 kilometer takes these out into Minnesota overnight. So this is, as we work, let me go back. So this is like 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. Eastern time. You can see those pushing through Grand Rapids and Lansing. It'll be interesting to see as they start to get towards Lake Michigan and kind of round the axis of instability, if these actually turn a little bit more southward than some of the models would suggest. And so your severe weather threat very late tonight into tomorrow morning could end up being more like Chicago, South Bend, Grand Rapids, maybe Lansing and Coldwater, but perhaps more down into this area. I'm not saying that for sure is going to happen, but these kind of systems, these kind of squall lines or QLCS systems do have a tendency later on to shift to the south. And looking at some of the upper level wind profiles, as well as the kind of the best axis of instability, that would tend to make me think that's what will happen. So something we'll see. Nonetheless, northern Illinois, northern Indiana, Michigan, you should remain on alert late tonight into early tomorrow morning. And then as we progress on into 6, 7, 8 o'clock, you can see they're kind of moving out. And then we kind of restart the threat here tomorrow afternoon, if I can go in, tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, down across central portions of the Ohio Valley. Now, not as significant as today, but the possibility there, you can see, of some severe weather is there tomorrow afternoon. This date is for 7 p.m. tomorrow evening. But obviously the big focus is up across portions of Wisconsin today, down into northern Illinois, eastern Minnesota, for that severe weather. So going on over, let's take a look at some of the, a little bit more of the science behind this. I'll go through that real quick. So anyways, let's take a look at some of the things that I've been looking at here. So one of the big things that I've seen that is probably more impressive than a lot, that kind of designates, and from what I saw yesterday, designates this as more of a significant setup as opposed to some of the other, we've had some damaging wind events. We had a damaging wind event a couple nights ago up across Wisconsin, but I think what even this sets this apart from this one are the upper level winds. So if we take a look at 500 millibars, which are more the middle layers of the atmosphere, you can see as we work on into like 5, 6, 7 p.m., we've got some very strong winds aloft. I mean, if we mouse over this, you can see we're upwards of 60 knots in some locations as this moves on through. So you've got some very strong upper mid-level winds at 500 millibars. And then if we take a look here at 850 millibars, as we work on into that same time frame on into 5, 6, or this is 7, 8, 9 o'clock, we've also got some strong westerly winds to maybe slightly southwesterly winds at 850. So this is getting lower in the atmosphere. This is about 5,000 feet or so roughly. And so we've got some very strong winds aloft. And, we have seen these squall lines come through where there's not real strong winds aloft. But now you've got these strong winds that are in place, and you're starting to get not only the possibility of like cold pool rear inflow jet, but you're also getting the possibility of some of these updrafts blowing up through the atmosphere. And then as you downdraft, you're pulling that strong, those strong winds down to the surface. So it gives you even more of a risk of severe weather from damaging winds. Now, obviously, when you have these wind profiles, and I'm going to go on over here and pull up the supercell composite. If we take a look here at these wind profiles, I haven't even looked. I want to see, give me just a second. I just want to see what their sector views are today, if there's any across Wisconsin. Nope, there are not. Okay. So if we take a look here at this is a little different view, but you can see this is Great Lakes. But if we take a look down here across Wisconsin, I think I'm going to switch here. Across Wisconsin here, it's kind of hard to see, but we've got kind of a northwest flow at 500 millibars, and we've got a slightly a slightly southwest flow at 850. There's still enough rotation. We're still rotating the atmosphere enough from winds being not only stronger as you go up, but also different directions at different levels. So they're starting from, let's see, I think they're starting generally from the kind of the south and southwest at the surface, and then as you go up, these winds are rotating. So you're going to get supercellular development here, meaning you're going to start to get storms that rotate. And you know that introduces the possibility, especially as these initially start to develop, of tornadoes. And so that's why there's a 10% risk of tornadoes here today, especially with those especially with those initial cells. Now, as this forms into a line, a squall line or a QLCS, that risk does go down, but you still have the possibility of tornadoes with this. It's not out of the question, especially kind of at the apex and on your north and south side of the strongest line here. Initially, we kind of thought there could be multiple rounds of severe weather, but as we've if we look through the data here, there might be, if you're in northwestern portions of Wisconsin and eastern, northeastern Minnesota, you could have multiple storms. But the good news is for people down here, as you start to work into central and eastern Wisconsin, southeastern Wisconsin, it really looks like this is going to be one round of very strong thunderstorms or very severe thunderstorms with damaging winds and hail. And the possibility for tornadoes. Let's zoom in here. One thing I do want to look at is we'll zoom into Wisconsin, and we can look at the forecast. Let me go back to the last run so we can push it through there. We can look at the forecast wind gusts. So we'll take a look at the wind gust swath. And so you can see, some of these model runs have been pretty bullish with some of the strong winds. And you can see locally, over the lake, and then locally, we've got wind gusts that are, meeting or over severe criteria. But we've had, some of these showing up where it's suggesting 75, 85 mile per hour wind gusts locally via the HRRR. Again, that's not perfect. It's just giving us an idea of what these storms potentially could be capable of. So we could be talking about, some very, very strong winds locally as we work into the evening hours and overnight tonight. So we take a look at the current environment, kind of the state of our current environment. The first thing we're going to look at is instability. I know this is kind of a messy look here, but there's not a whole lot of instability right now here. This is western portions of out through here is western portions of Wisconsin. So you have to go out into Minnesota and back out into the Dakotas and then back down into Illinois and eastern Wisconsin to have much instability there at the mix layer. And then we have, additional instability at the surface base layer. But we have very strong winds. You can see here's our 850 millibar winds from this, really right now from the southwest out across portions of central Minnesota. And as these move east, they will take on more of a westerly component. At least I hope they do. If something happens and these stay on a southwesterly flow, we would be talking about a different kind of severe weather event. But for now, these look to take on more of a westerly component over time here as they move into the evening. And then we take a look at the 500 millibar winds, and you can see we've got very strong 500 millibar winds. We've got, 500 millibar winds up to 60 knots from the northwest in some locations. And we take a look, so this is, and I know I'm getting a little technical with things, but we take a look at bulk shear, and you're getting into bulk shear values of 50, 60 knots, which, as you start to get into like 35 plus knots of bulk shear, that's plenty for severe weather, and you're almost double that in some instances. So we've got plenty of upper level energy, upper level wind associated with this as these come through later on this evening. So like I said, this is looking to be potentially more of a significant damaging wind event here as we work late tonight into early tomorrow across the moderate risk area and perhaps even into the enhanced risk area, which is, and I'll zoom back out here. Again, there's your moderate risk, a lot of Wisconsin in this. And then your enhanced risk, Duluth, Moose Lake, east of Minneapolis, St. Paul, almost to Rockford, does extend into Evanston, Chicago, South Bend, Grand Rapids, Grand Haven, out towards Lansing, and I-69 there in Michigan. So, really this entire area needs to be watching, but especially those areas in red that are under the moderate risk. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. Right now, this afternoon, so late this evening into tonight across these areas, definitely be ready if you have a weather radio. Have that prepared to send you alerts and for watches and mornings and any kind of other information you need. And obviously have kits ready, because these kind of storms is, I know there's been many people in Wisconsin here, not just recently, but in the past several years, that have had these big lines, what we call a quasi-linear convective system, a QLCS, move through and cause significant damage in your days. Sometimes, I think I've heard of people over a week without power. So, be prepared for anything that could happen, and have your storm kits ready. Anybody have any questions about this afternoon or later this afternoon into this evening? I'm not great if you have a question about your location. I'm not the greatest with geography into Wisconsin, so but I will try my best. I might have to Google search some locations, but if anybody has any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them. I'll give you guys a second for them to pop up. I know you're on. There is the possibility of a derecho. The Storm Prediction Center in their latest outlook has not mentioned that. It was mentioned in the Storm Prediction Center outlook this morning that there is the possibility of a derecho. Derechos, here's the thing for me with derechos, because everybody's like, oh, this could be a derecho. It could be, it could not be. Regardless, it's going to be a significant damaging wind event. Really, derechos, in my opinion, that's an impressive classification, but you're only going to really get that name after the fact. Really, to sit here and say that it's going to be a derecho or not a derecho is I don't know. The derecho is determined after the fact. It's already occurred by the amount of damage, how long it continued, how strong the winds were. So the possibility is there, but I think it's just kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of redundant to say that we will have a derecho or not have a derecho, because you're still going to have significant impacts, regardless of whether it's classified that or is not. The O'Hare area, so yeah, up into northern Chicago, up into northern Cook County, central Cook County. You guys do have that possibility later tonight, and I'll go back over to... Give me a second here. Sort through 800 of my open tabs. And we'll take a look here. Goodness, I'm trying to figure out what in the world I'm doing. So we'll go to Illinois and we'll take a look at the composite reflectivity for tonight. So, as you work into, this is by the time you start to work into 2 to 3 a.m. So as you work into that 3 to 5 a.m. time frame, again, this model, notice how it's taken things, more out into Racine, Kenosha, Waukegan, that area, and moves them east. With that being said, I don't know if you were watching earlier on in this, but my concern is, if I pan out here, is that the fact that this takes this line off to the southeast, I do think as this moves south and starts to get further south into Wisconsin, this may turn south. And so as you work late tonight, closer to 3 to 5 to 6 a.m., that places like O'Hare, Chicago, O'Hare, out towards even maybe DeKalb and St. Charles, then back up into McHenry and places like that, could see this line continue. Now, will it be as extreme as places in Wisconsin? Probably not, but could it still produce strong and even damaging winds? Yeah, I would say so. So no, I think, for Chicago, Waukegan, those areas in northeastern Illinois, as you can see here, if I zoom in, that are in that enhanced risk, I still think you guys could very well see severe weather here late tonight into early tomorrow morning. So, yeah, you're very welcome. I don't know if we'll do another live stream later on or not. Obviously, we're going to be, on social media, especially Twitter, but Facebook as well. We're going to be updating information as we go throughout the day, on into the evening as well. And so we'll be continuing to watch things as we work on into later on tonight too. And so we'll be posting a lot there. Obviously, there will be more, there'll be a few more, 2 or 3 more day one, I think 2 more day one outlooks that'll come out. So obviously those will get posted. We'll talk about, any kind of changes we're seeing. So a lot of our stuff's going to be more social media related. probably, unless I just see something changing. But yeah, I don't know if we'll do another live today. That's kind of up in the air. If so, I'll give you guys advanced warning. I won't do it and then say, okay, we're going live, and then 5 minutes later we're live. I'll try to give you guys a little bit of time if we should do that. But anyways, anybody else have any more questions? I'll zoom out here back to this. Any more questions on anything for this evening or tonight? I'm going to pull this up, make sure there's nothing. No. Okay. Oh, there is a new. All right, there's a new mesoscale discussion. Watch possible across northern portions of northern portions of Minnesota. Large hail possible this afternoon from north central Minnesota through the Minnesota Arrowhead. We won't go into the discussion, but it looks like there is a 40% probability for a severe thunderstorm watch for large hail. So, large hail up into northern Minnesota and the Arrowhead. So, Baudette, International Falls, north of Grand Rapids, Virginia, those areas, you guys could see that watch. This is I'm pretty sure, a brand new MD. I don't think this has been out very long because I just checked. We'll check, we'll go here and just check the SPC and see when this was put out. Yes, 28 minutes ago. So about when we started, this was put out. So I guess I just overlooked it. Nonetheless, they're across northern northeastern Minnesota. Yeah, good, awesome. Yeah, good. If you guys can share the link, because like I said, you can go to this link and watch it. Or if other people didn't get to watch and want to later on, just to kind of get their bearings and get some information, they can take that link and watch it at any time. It'll be on our YouTube page. So yeah, share it and post it, and others can see it. So anyways, that's kind of, I think, all we have for this session. And like I said, we'll continue to definitely update as we work through the afternoon into the evening on social media, and kind of continue to watch things here as we progress on through. Very interesting event from a meteorological perspective as well, shaping up. Yeah, like I said, later on tonight into early tomorrow morning, roughly probably between 3 to 6, 3 to 7 a.m. on Thursday, the Chicago area very well could see damaging winds from this line, depending on exactly where it tracks and exactly where storms develop. There's still some questions on exact placement. Like I said, the model data I showed you earlier is not going to be perfect. This is not going to be a perfect placement with the model data. It's just kind of giving you an idea of timing and kind of what we could see. So, but I do think northeastern Illinois could potentially see this line late tonight into tomorrow morning. So anyways, I think that's going to be all, unless we get another question here. Just making sure I'm not... Okay, yeah, I'm scrolling all the way down. So anyways, I think that's going to kind of do it for us. And, we'll, like I said, continue to post stuff as we work through the daytime hours today into tonight. Everybody, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you later.